Chapter 2, The Money Shot, 1981, 5 years after the river wouldn't stop. First person, Danny. The negative was still buried in its slip-dried tissue-like sleeve. I kept picking it up and dropping it back on different parts of the dark room, trying to look like just another part of the half-lit furniture. Random art students coming in didn't help. I'm only 2 years older than most of them, but the looks are like, "What are you still doing here, man? Didn't you graduate last year or the year before?" And I'm thinking, you have no clue, do you? Graduated? Hell yes. Still can't afford to pay for printing my own shit. That's like why I'm sneaking around a school darkroom. Jesus, live a little. When I was allowed to be here, we used to secretly stay all night to finish assessments, waiting until the caretaker had locked up and gone home before creeping out of our holes. These new kids just feel daddy rich, mummy wrapped, and suburban fucking ice cream. 2 years out and I tagged onto as many gigs as I could. Motorbike tours, fishing trips, abseiling misadventures. That shit had brought up memories. Then there was small town newspaper shoots. Even spent an overdue rent on a fizz boat to get me out to a sinking ship. Action shots of rescue boats, shit scared faces, really ugly waves. But the main papers had come out in choppers. Can't compete with choppers, man. Why I'm particularly homeless at the moment, particularly desperate. I take out the crumpled newspaper clipping from the back pocket of my jeans. Australian National Geographic Portrait Competition. 2 first-year girls burst in giggling about something that just happened in the hallway. I caught the word shame and quickly slid the clipping under the enlarger base. I grabbed a light meter just to look less surplus. The girls were just hiding from someone. The one that looked like she caused the most trouble stared at me. "Taking a pic in the darkroom." "Novel." No, just checking," I mumbled. "Light reading practice." The second girl was fidgety, like she might have a place to be before Trouble Girl met her. She grabbed Trouble's hand and said, "Come on, we can spray it on later." "Oh shit, we might need another can." "I know how," replied Trouble, as she backed out the darkroom door, chin up and eyeing me like I was week old food. My hand rested on the negative again. "Nice. You were nice. That's all I remember." I took a breath, pulled the negative out and slid it under the enlarger light. 10 minutes later I was swishing the paper in the developer with the tongs. Pipes and water gurgled, as it always did in a darkroom. A darkroom was like an aquarium without the fish. Light shimmers across the walls all the time in a darkroom. A dreamy feeling, like time changed differently inside a darkroom. You forgot whether it was sunny or starry outside. The only troubles were the ones in front of you: developer, paper, exposure, time. Then the image started to appear. This was the magic bit. That scene you'd glimpsed out there in real time, that instant before you lifted the camera, twisted the lens, framed and clicked. Too fast or too slow and it was gone. To be in the moment you had to be part of it, even from behind a lens. The other students had laughed at my cynical groove. Snappers, all of them. I mean, hey, you got to have a groove, right? I mean, guess I was a bit of a dick, strutting around with a camera over my army surplus jackets, walking and talking like some hard-chewed Vietnam photojournalist, like I was over it at 20. My tutors hadn't laughed. They knew I had it, in the blood, deep in the blood. That was the difference, snappers and shooters. A shooter knew it was coming sometime. He anticipated it. He was ready for it, like a surfer waiting out half the dusk, waiting for that one wave. That one wave that made everything all right, made every wait worth it. Image was almost clear now. It just made me stop. First time I'd printed a photograph from that trip. When I watched someone die, and we were all 15. There she was again, on the photographic paper, alive in nitrate at least. 24 hours left, face just appearing over the rock edge, smiling. Aviator sunglasses she'd borrowed from me, veiling both eyes. In one lens the sun's reflection, diamond-like. In the other just the trace of an eye. Enough hope and joy of life in that one eye to get her up any mountain. She told me once that she wanted to write, books. I should have said something, given a thumbs up. Guess I was too busy being cool. I see it behind her, far below, waiting for us. The river. The one that would kill her the next day. What was I feeling 24 hours later, when I couldn't get her mouth back to the air? It was 5 years ago, man. Shit. Don't cry in the developing tray. You broke high school in two, Susan. We were still kids, so you drowned in a gorge we'd never heard of before. I pulled the photograph from the tray, then... Oh shit, I dropped it. This sounds crazy, but I swear, the instant the photograph lifted from the water, the face kind of moved. The head just like lifted up. The mouth opened almost. For an instant, through the sunglasses, I saw both eyes now. And the illusion was gone. Illusion. Huh? Quotation marks. Susan was always doing that with her fingers. I was tired. Just tired, and dark rooms have a million different reflections, etc. I quickly rinsed the paper and hang it up. It was a good picture, yeah, but not good enough. But a title could turn an okay shot into the money shot. And I really needed the money. To make this one, however, I was going to have to be a real shit. The king of shit. I wanted that prize money. Maybe even more, I wanted to get noticed. I'd barely been a year on the dole, but my family was already using words like hobby. Nothing wrong with having it as a hobby, Danny. Dad always needs help with the stables. Fuck it. Sorry. I mutter and quickly scrawl away my soul on the back of the photograph. Title: Day Before Death, 30th of November 1976. I shove the pic into a hardback envelope and then drop it into my brown leather satchel. 30 seconds later, I'm bursting out the caretaker's entrance. I take 3 steps at a time up the steep bank and jump onto Simon Street like I was clearing a ditch. Not for the first time today, the word shit escapes my lips. The street should have been empty. Somehow it's turned into a human sea of people I don't want to spend time with. Clock's ticking. I need to go right towards the post office. But the human sea is pulling me left, down the hill, away from any mailbox slit. And the air's loud with megaphones and chanting. For a second, I see another photographer, a student in a red beret, shooting pics. But she dives into the crowd and she's gone. As I search for a way through the faces around me, the faces start to make sense. Long-haired students, priests, guys in leather and tattoos on their arms, necks, Maori guys, old guys in locked arms, resisting whatever was coming. Some of the women look my grandfather's age. Then I get smashed with a placard. A muffled sorry gets swallowed up by the next wave of earnest do-gooders. Then the chant separates itself from the background noise, and I finally understand why I'm marooned in 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your racist tour. Shit. An anti-apartheid protest. Some drunken idiots pour out of a pub, red-nosed, off-balance and drunk, with inherited stupidity. They start throwing bottles into the crowd. Then, through the swearing and the gestures, a protester in a leather jacket raises his fist and pops them the bird. They don't try anything. He's a big dude. The biggest fish in the sea. A few more broken bottles, and the drinkers go back to drinking and watching it all on the sports bar TV. The shots around me are too good to resist. I reach down to my hip for my camera. Nothing. Shit. In my haste to post the photograph, I left it back on the darkroom table. Idiot, I blurt out as a Catholic priest passes. The crush carries me right down into the centre of town. I get wedged behind some nurses carrying placards saying, "Nurses against racism," as opposed to the nurses for racism. Behind us were a bunch of students I vaguely recognised. Half were young communists, the other half the university tramping club. I try to get to the edges of the throng, but there's only motorway ramps, dodgy leaps and broken legs, mine. There's an alley to the right that looks like a good escape. For a moment, a gap appears, but before I can move in, the nurses are thrown back into me. The chanting ceases instantly. Deep men's voices replaced it, like drums, synchronized, practiced. I knew those voices were paid. They were getting paid for this shit, man. Move, 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 move. They chant over and over. I'm 6'2", a good height for a photographer. But I knew the real shit had arrived even before I saw the police helmet. Shit. I hear screams and one of the nurses calling out a voice of reason. People are getting crushed. Please, please, go back. The riot squad hadn't really been trained in mob negotiations. They came on, knees bent, shoulders down, packed tight, locked shields. They were going full Roman legion on our asses. Suddenly the men in the crowd get physical. A piece of wood, maybe a placard, sails through the air over my head. In that instant, I calculate f-stop, shutter speed I'd need if I had a camera. It was a shooter's dream with ice cream and syrup thrown in. Raised hands, terrified nurses' faces, placards shimmering like a forest of flags, and a spear sailing over the top of it all. But dumbass here didn't have a camera. Then the battens start rising like driftwood on a big wave, and you don't see it until it's too late. If the chant "move, move" was the bass, the screams were the treble. Something wet blinds me. For a second I blink and look at my hands and realize it's blood. I look back up at the sea of bodies and fists. A young nurse is sinking beneath their heads. Fucking pigs, I hear myself calling. These are nurses, you assholes! At 6'2", I don't really need to stand out anymore. Telling a riot squad to fuck off was always going to earn me a PR-24 baton in the side of the head. I go down on one knee, tasting my own blood this time. The young nurse is lying by me, moaning quietly into her hand. I slide over and with one good arm try to protect her from the mob that surges and sways as the cops dig in from all sides. Another nurse, an older one, she kneels below the heads and joins me. She cradles the injured sister to her. I nod her. You okay? She nods back. Talk is useless. I try and use my legs to push bodies away from us. Maybe it's callous, but while people are going down all around us, I'm still seeing shots. And just maybe God herself was seeing them too. Through the bracing, shifting legs I see, of all things, a camera lying on the ground. It was covered in blood and I thought of the photography student in the beret. Then I see this long, thin leg crouch down and grab the camera. The slender hands of a woman wipe the blood off the lens with a sleeve. She wears a long, tan trench coat, thick stockings and green boots. And there's something familiar about her. The camera is a Nikon F, like mine. So pretty much indestructible. I dropped one off a cliff once and finished the roll fine after retrieving it from seaweed and salt. Then the thin woman's hand grips the top of the camera, like she's getting ready to slide it my way. The legs of the mob part for a second and she slides it straight across the slippery surface, right to my hand. It was less than 2 seconds, but I saw her. Catherine Stonefields. I hadn't seen Catherine Stonefields in 2 years. I tried, but she hated my guts, and that gave her an edge in the elusive department. I call out Catherine, but her name is lost in the massive bodies, now about to collapse like a scrum in extra time. Yeah, the woman I'd once fallen completely off the edge of the world for was just 10 yards away. The camera was in my hand now, so it was showtime. Push play, baby. If there's a soundtrack playing in my head, it's Empty Glass by Pete Townsend. So I rip it, plant a foot and swing the camera up. My fingers automatically adjust the speed and f-stop. My thumb flicks frames like a 6-shooter. I get 2 shots of a baton coming down, 3 of the hits, and one of blood actually crossing the air. To my right, a nurse is holding up her red cape, as if it might protect her like a shield. The cop rips it away with the other hand, and then breaks her shoulder bone with his baton. 250th of a second catches a crucifix flying off its chain. In the background of the same shot, a pigeon lifts off a broken neon that used to shine "Jesus loves you." A part of my brain is screaming, "You can't make this shit up." I go into combat mode. The brutality around is all for the lens, for my lens alone. The lens will absorb it like a sponge and then distill it into clear wine. Then all would be different. I was going to change it. I can whirl with this light box. At 21, I can. Hey, you! calls a voice I know I'm not spending time with. "That camera here, now, you little prick. Put that camera down." Now 3 cops are 2 shoves away from me. I'm running, slipping in the waste left after a mob loses it. But the cops with their shield are having more trouble getting through the crowd, which by now is mostly huddling on the ground. But I'm too big a target, with someone else's camera and someone else's blood. A baton swings right in front of me and I think this is it, but the ground's so wet I slip under it like a limbo stick. Then a few lucky breaks, a few gaps, and I'm alone, heaving my guts up against a brick wall in an alley. I take a look up at the blue sky and shove a door in with my back. On the other side is an arcade full of shoppers, just shopping. It's weird. I fall onto the main street, or rather another planet. People seem oblivious to what has just happened 300 yards away. Families stroll with babies, store owners grumble as they pick up street signs blown down by the wind. I start walking, hands under each armpit, camera hidden in the folds of my old leather jacket. There's a buzz of adrenaline, the shaking hands, the gold lust of what might be on that roll. I barely notice the backs of legs of the people in front of me, just glad to be in a crowd not bleeding. See, I'm just chicken shit. All that swagger is just moving. The unwashed mane, the 3-day growth, the leather, smoking fags. Then I feel it. Feel the lack of weight on my back. The satchel. The one with the pic of Susan. Shit. It was ripped off my back. I remember before I even get a chance to think about going back, I see those green boots and tan trench coat in front of me. Catherine. Everything but everything is fucking happening today, man. Instantly I feel like my insides are all over my clothes. I almost call out her name 3 times. Nothing comes out. The Susan thing, there was always that. Yeah, we could talk about that. I could smell Catherine's shampoo in the air, the morning shower still lingering. And oh, the perfume. I don't know what it is about perfume in a woman, but every guy knows it drives you fucking crazy. Oh man, she's grown. She's a real ass now. She turns and goes into a cafe. A dark Turkish place, narrow, long. I go to the door and back across the street twice like a nutcase. Don't be I start telling myself then. And I stride right through that fly curtain. She's sitting with her back to me. Last stall from the end. The manager is leaving over her table, a Middle Eastern guy about 40. He's discussing something practical with her, but my shooter's eye also knows he's enjoying being close to her. She reaches out and takes his hand. By his smile it seems to make the old guy's day. He bows like some matinee idol and goes back to the counter. I'm summoning courage when a skinhead with an ugly dog shoves past me. Immediately the old guy scowls at this dude and his ugly dog. "No dogs. Get your dog out of my cafe." While he's tearing kebab strips off the dog man, I slip past with my bloody camera. 12 steps and I slide into the booth across from Catherine. "You may," she says without looking up. "May?" "Sit down," she finishes. "What were you doing in that cat? That was crazy." She glances at my camera. The camera she had slid to me. "Did you get shots?" "Hell yeah," I say. "Give me it." She reaches her hand across. When I don't respond, she finally looks up at me. I have 3 shots left. The counter on the Nikon F tells me so. I want to use them all on that face. "Don't you dare," she says. "I'll develop them. You'll see them then." "I don't want to see you again, Danny." She pauses. "You know why." "The river," I sigh. "Always the river." We took advantage after the river. Cat, we both wanted. To fuck? Sure. Difference is I just wanted a fuck. She whispers the second fuck. But like the shit you are, you use the fact that I was a mess to whatever, she adds. Fall in love with you? Love, we were babies, Danny. Not even 16, it was illegal. It's only legal, Cat, if one of us is underage. Which was not the worst thing I could have said. There was a long silence. I'm thinking, what could possibly feel more awkward than this moment? Maybe my mother catching me in a bed with a black gay boy and we're both wearing matching frilly knickers. You're a really good photographer, Danny. Stop the bus. Did she just praise me? Focus, Danny, focus. The catch. I'm second year law, Danny, she says. Here it comes. Top of my class, she adds. The catch. Congratulations, I say. I see her glance at the bloody camera. I swear she nearly licks her lips. One of my professors was in the march today, she says. He'll go after every cop in the city, and if those images are half as good as I think they are, he'll win, even with this government we've got. And you get his attention, I say. She smiles and lifts that oh so particular nose. I've already got his attention. I want a job. Is that why you slid someone else's camera to me, to further your career? She frowns. Slid a camera? Are you high again? I wasn't in the crowd. Right. What? A bit too real for you, eh? Getting down and dirty with the unwashed. She ignores that. Thank God, even I thought it was a crap thing to say. I was holding onto the statue on the corner, she continues. I saw you in the crowd taking pictures. I thought it was your camera. What? Look, never mind, whatever. I have a deadline and I lost the photograph I was going to use. I paused and decided it was better not to tell her it was that photograph. Yep. That, quotation marks. Never mind, I say, I think I got a better one today. I continue. I'm not always right, but sometimes you just, in the moment, you snap it, you got one. Use the original one, she says, breaking the mood. What? Danny, you can't use anything you took today. Why? Because of some court case that might not even happen. I said it would, she says. Well, you said it would. Do second-year law students have that much power? She sighs, as if debating whether it was worth trying to explain legal politics to a scruffy loser like me. Then she comes up with, look, Danny, call it even, please. Even? It was the please. I didn't want to tell her, but that please. Catherine, I need these shots. The one I was going to use, it was the one I took of Susan, the day before it happened. On the rock face. Her eyes wander across the cafe, remembering. I was behind you, holding her rope, she says, flicking her hair, although it's tightly wound into her trademark ponytail. What did it look like? The photograph of Susan. Good, really good, I answer, hoping she won't ask what I called it. The Miss Practical 1981 narrows her eyes. Use it then. Do it. Deadline's gone now, I say. She studies my face like I'm in the witness box. But you didn't really want to, did you, Danny? Because you needed to ask her parents for permission. I can't do that, I mutter. So you have a conscience? I finish for her. I look down at the orange marbled vinyl top. Then I feel her hand reach across and cover mine. I didn't realize how warm I was still from the melee in the street. Catherine's hand feels like ice. I look up and she's looking at me like I've dreamed so many times. At me, into me. But that look, it just doesn't last long enough. A clatter of plates and shattering of glass makes me look to the front of the cafe. A protester has stumbled in and fallen against the counter, knocking a stack of dishes and glasses over. The manager is waving his hands in the air, trying to get the confused guy back on the street. Out, out, out! The protester takes a Hail Mary swing at the manager, and I'm out of my seat. I don't know, Hero Man, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking it might impress Catherine. Guys do the dumbest things around women. Hey, that's enough, man, I call. The dude takes his eyes off the manager, who promptly grabs his belt and flings him back out through the fly curtain onto the street. The manager turns to me and nods. I looked back to Catherine for at least a smile. She's gone. With the borrowed camera. And the photographs. The door to the red toilets is still swinging. I don't curse her. Should maybe. She'd pinched the best pics I'd probably ever taken. The whole 5 minutes in the middle of that protest march had been a miraculous event as far as I was concerned. A once-in-a-lifetime perfect storm. I'd beaten off the banditos and saved the girl unarmed. Unarmed until someone had slipped me a shooter. Now the major femme fatale had stolen my crown jewels, and of course, like the sap I am, I pick up her empty coffee cup and gaze at the lipstick marks on the cup. Maybe men are only here for one reason.